Nice. Okay. So I might as well talk about it first. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, here's the note from Stacy. Come to the, can you? So this guy, his name's Cambiaso, and he is kind of famous for blocking out all of his compositions. So let me just like zoom out for a second so you can see the whole thing. I can slide this down a little bit. So the subject matter, I've like looked into kind of extensively because of the there's this really famous painting by Bronzino, and it's actually really funny. But it's not this piece, but it's the same subject matter. So there's all kinds of like biblical stories that these artists get commissioned by the church to paint. So it's like there's a narrative, there's like a story that goes along, and they have to kind of abide by it because it's like the account of the story, and it's being commissioned by the church. So the elements that are in this picture, and it's not that gory, but it's just like an old church photo, or old church picture. But since we did the figure last week, I just wanted you to like see how you can like draw from your imagination. Kai is here. Like in a shorthand way. So we don't have to do the entire figure, but we'll do at least the front and the back of the figure. Hey Kaya, are you there? Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay, groovy. So I have, it's interesting. You guys did so well with the figures last week, and we're recording, by the way. And I kind of want to do one of the pilgrims, but I wanted to do this one first. And I was just telling Julia that this is it's a church picture. I haven't read into it, but I know what the subject is, and it's called the Martyrdom of San Lorenzo or St. Lawrence. So this, and I don't know what century the saint got killed. This is like kind of a high Renaissance period that the painting was made. And I think the martyrdom happened like maybe 500 or 1,000 years before that. So it's a Renaissance story about a very, very old story, as far as I understand. So what happened to this guy, martyrs die because they, profess, their belief in Christ and, Jesus. So it's like their Christian faith that the establishment, decides to kill them. So all these martyrs have died in different ways. And I'm actually not that, I'm an artist and I'm an art teacher. So I know a lot about the art, and I know how this picture was made. I have to admit, I have never read the story of the martyrdom of San Lorenzo. So everything I know about this particular story has come from studying other paintings of it in a very kind of secular way. So I'm not saying it has to stay like that, but I'm coming to this at the moment with like a very kind of like I just don't know the story, but I do know the techniques that this artist used to block out his figures and draw from imagination with very little detail. So there's very little anatomy. There's very little, textures, fabric, no eyes, nose, mouth, none of those things. That he basically distills all of his figures into blocks. There might be some egg shapes, ovals, some cones, some pyramids, something like that, but like mostly block figures. And it's interesting. So I'll just like talk about some of the figures that are in here. So this is St. Lawrence right now, and he is laying on his back. He's being impaled by a spear. So this is in every martyrdom of San Lorenzo, basically, as far as I know, like 5 distinct elements, actually maybe even 6 distinct elements that are consistent throughout the entire thing. This is the ruler up here. This is the guy who condemned him to death, and he's usually shown higher up. In this case, he's on a horse. In other pictures, he's on like a throne, like looking down. In fact, the Walters, if you go to the Walters, I think the biggest painting in the entire collection is a Tiepolo, and it is a Martyrdom of San Lorenzo. So it's the same. So if you, by studying this, and I'll just explain to you what these people are doing, you'll recognize a Martyrdom of San Lorenzo forever. So I didn't mean to like jump the gun here. Basically, St. Lawrence is on this metal grate, and it's just a cube here. So there's no detail, but it is seen as a metal grate, and there's a fire being built underneath it. So he's on the grate, he's being stabbed by the spear. So that's one of the characters, is one of the guys that's, you know, spearing him, which is kind of reminiscent of, you know, Christ, because Christ got, you know, impaled on the side as well. And then this guy is lighting the fire. So the fire hasn't really been lit yet. So you've got wood down here, a basket of wood, and you've got this guy up here who's carrying another bundle of sticks, you know, to fuel the fire. So there's a guy lighting it, there's a guy bringing the sticks, there's a guy doing the impaling, there's the guy who's doing the condemning, you know. So these are like the characters in the play, and then the main character is the martyrdom, and he is, you know, in this earthly realm, you know, in that he's about to die and this is his physical body, but he's, you know, looking through it and reaching up into the angels that are coming and, you know, basically taking his soul and turning him into a saint, and he, you know, lives on, I guess, on the other side. And I'm sure there's way more, you know, religious connotations that happen. You know, I think in other pictures, they've had the sign of the passion. You know, there's like I think this is a feather, which he writes with. Then there's also like the chalice, that, you know, the Holy Grail is in some of them. Strangely, these cherubs up here, usually cherubs like cupids, have wings. And the first one had these cherubs without wings came from the Bronzino painting. That's the earliest that I can find. This painting came after the Bronzino, or pretty close to the same time. So I'm assuming that Cambiaso knew about the Bronzino painting. That's the piece that I know the most. Anyway, I didn't mean to actually even choose a piece that I needed to explain all of these details to you, because I was just thinking about, last week we looked at a very finished rendered painting, and I kind of had to explain the substructure, and you almost had to like take my word for it that, you know, that the artist used a block, or the artist used a cube, or the artist, you know what I mean, like putting all of those forms together, you almost had to like believe me. And here this is an artist whose sketch, you know, reveals the thinking of artists and their planning phase, and how they, you know, arrange the masses so that they can work out of their imagination. That's the main thing. It's like Cambiaso's reading a story, probably from the Bible, and he is not there. And so all he has to go on is the story and then previous pictures that have been made. So you probably have models that come to the studio, perhaps, or he just, you know, kind of like thought about it and just started drawing out of his imagination. I mean, we can draw out of our imagination. Like it's an amazing thing to do, and it's worth it to practice. I think one of the negative components of learning to draw directly through observation is that you become dependent on needing to see in order to create art. And I know neither of you really have that problem, but it is a thing. I mean, some people, you know, need to have something to see in order to draw. And it's not that that's bad, it's just, it's limiting. And I want you as artists to be versatile and to be able to draw from imagination as well as observation. And this is, you know, this is a good example of somebody who's creating a really complex arrangement out of their imagination, so that then that vision can then be built upon, but it's a very early set of decisions. Like I said, there's no fabric, there's no identifying characteristics of the people. Like he would bring models in and take these poses, and then he'd be able to do the observation after kind of the inspiration of the composition came to him. And however that happens is also really interesting phenomenon, new ideas and seeing things in your mind's eye and then being able to draw them. Okay, I'm just talking way too much. I think what we're going to do is build this cube to just kind of get warmed up. We're going to start with the front face, and then we're going to, like a tissue box, or Kleenex box, pull this back, whether it's the top plane or the side plane first. We'll build this platform, and then we'll lay St. Lawrence on it. And then I'm sure it's the same model. Then we'll turn the model over and get another angle from the back where we'll look for a lot of the same forms of the guy lighting the fire. So we'll get, two reclining, like angled poses. And I don't know, maybe there's a side of me that thinks maybe we should do the standing one first. Like that might be like somehow easier than a reclining pose. Let's do that. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. You can make it this composition, or you can, you can do it. You can embellish, as I always encourage. Okay. Let's do the standing figure first. I think that's like not a bad basics. And the nice thing is we don't have a lot of detail, so the marks that we make, let's make them count. All right. Groovy. All right. So here, there's two things that I like. When I start drawing the figure, I like to find the angle of the shoulders and the angle of the pelvis. And the shoulders is the top of this rectangle. And from the back, it's really helpful because the middle of this cube is going to be the spine. So I've got the angle of the shoulders, I've got the angle of the spine, and then the back. Some men that are like stronger, oftentimes are depicted with more broad shoulders. So it's sometimes not a rectangle, sometimes it's a trapezoid. Just like heads up on that. And then the angle of the pelvis is this line. So this is the back of the hips. And that's going to be another rectangle. You got the cheeks, the top of the cheeks here that make the little Y shape. That's helpful. It's the same thing as the spine, because the spine comes down through the middle of the back, and actually terminates at this triangle that's at the top of the pelvis. And that's what this triangle is. It's called the sacral triangle. All right. So that being said, I find the angle of the shoulders, I find the spine, and then I try to carry it through wherever the legs are, like whatever the legs are doing. Sometimes they're, they can be doing all kinds of things. So you can follow the line straight down. The weight is in the right leg, and because the right leg is stepping forward and the back leg is, the weight is shifting forward. So it used to have the weight, and then the weight is shifting into the front leg. And so this back leg actually does not have any weight in it. So that's kind of cool. I'm seeing this, see this arc right here. There's an arc that goes from this hip bone all the way down to the ankle. So the angle of the foot, then you have a flat foot here. This is me just trying to plot some of the movements before I get into the shapes and the masses. So these are the rib cage and the pelvis. Notice that there's this little midriff section. We're kind of where the love handles are. That area is where all the twisting and the turning happens. So the top rectangle, the trapezoid, whatever you want to call it, that's where the rib cage inhabits. And then the hips is where the pelvis is. So those are both bones. The only thing kind of connecting the two is this spine right here. So, you know, the belly, the side, like that's where all of the twists and turns happen. That's like side bends, back bends. It's very springy in here. We put these straight lines in here. So that's like where, you know, there's a lot of torque that happens, you know, in this middle region, and everything in the front is very elastic. All your guts and your muscles in the front are very movable. So these are the two masses, and then we have to go from the rib cage. We have to go through another kind of very flexible connector, which is the neck, and the neck is very flexible, flimsy but flexible. And then we get the next mass, and in this case, we're seeing the person from behind. So you're really seeing the back of the skull, and the front of the face is like a mask, so it's more oval, but the back of the skull is round. And so it's incredible how much this looks like a human by just doing two-dimensional shapes. So we did a trapezoid, which is taller than it is wide. Then we did a rectangle, which is wider than it is tall. Then we did that circle there. Are you guys with me? Am I going too fast? Is this good? Is everybody still alive? Is it possible to get a thumbs up or a?
Yep.
Or a heck yeah? Okay, cool. Sweet. So these, the shoulder and the face, the head and the rib cage and the pelvis, they are ultimately going to be three-dimensional. In fact, maybe we should try to make them a little 3D now. So I'm going to add a little bit of thickness to the hips here. So we're seeing mostly the back, and then we're seeing a little bit of the side. You can come up through the midriff, and then you're seeing the same thing over here. So you're seeing a little bit of the side of the rib cage. Now, most of the rib cage is covered by, you know, what I'm going to say is our first three-dimensional form, and that is the arm. So this is the side of the arm, and then we're seeing the back of the arm. So the back of the arm are these triceps back here, and that they're actually light. And the side of the arm basically is the shoulder into the biceps. Again, I feel bad because I'm saying anatomy. It's in my training. Like I can't help separate my anatomical knowledge from my geometric knowledge, but I'm really trying to focus on the geometry here. So this is a cube where you see the side of the cube, and it attaches to a larger cube. And believe it or not, you see a little bit of shadow on that side as well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put the arrow for the sunlight. So this is a light beam that's going this way. And I think we'll find that pretty consistent throughout, even though there's not a whole lot of shading. Okay, this artist gives you the elbow block. I think the elbow is a cube. I mean, I know it's a cube, but he attaches it to the forearm, which I think actually works really nicely. So you can actually see the L, or the backwards L, as the back of the arm comes and hits the corner, and you're going to see the underside. And then that wrist, you know, the wrist actually goes round, and it curves. So I'm going to make the block of the hand because I know that it's there, and I can see that the pole would, you know, wrap around. So this is his thumb over here, and this is his fingers up there. So these would be the knuckles. Again, I apologize if I'm adding too much anatomy. It's hard to help it. The side of the mask. Let's do the 3D property of the side of the mask. So again, there's no face. I mean, maybe you would be able to see a nose. Maybe you could see a little bit of the eyebrow, maybe a little bit of the mouth. I'm just trying to make it look human. And then, you know, maybe you'd see the ear right there. But he solves it so simply. I mean, just so simply, with just the side of the face of the mask. Cool. We're going to see this form over here. I'm going to put a little X on it. That's the back of the triceps. We're going to see the back of the triceps right here. And then the elbow, if you can see, turns under itself. And then you see the forearm up here, and he does give us the cube and the grip, the thumb on this side, and the pole for the spear is coming through it. That's what's going on in here. No need for these details. I'm just doing them for fun. I made my guy a little bit wide, and that's fine. Okay, so we've got one leg that's up front, and by the way, I'm not overlapping it. This is the edge of the entire picture. So the edge of the picture kind of crops off his hips on this side, and maybe even a little bit of that upper thigh. So we're not missing anything that is in the picture. So I'm going to make this back leg come at me, and it's going to be trapezoidal. So we're going to do the back of the thigh, wider at the top, narrower at the knee, and then we're going to see how the side of the hips leads into the side of the thigh. So cool. So the elbow up here is this little block. The knee does the same thing, and it's almost like the midriff in here, because you have this major mass of the femur up here, and then it meets with the tibia and the fibia at the bottom. So there's the knee cap, and then all of the tendons and the muscles that wrap around the connection of the femur to the tibia. And this is how the knee joint works. And so they're two different bones coming together, and the way they stay together is kind of miraculous. So it's this little tendon and muscle connection that he's indicating with this little separation between those two. And then from there, it looks like it's almost like a cone, or like a teardrop shape, or even like a drumstick shape of that calf muscle. You're seeing the shadow side of the calf muscle, seeing the shadow side of the knee, seeing the shadow side of that thigh. And I might as well just shade the side of the hips as well. Cool. So the ankle pinches in almost like an hourglass. Like an hourglass is wide, pinches in really narrow, and then gets wide again. The ankle does the same thing. So this is the pinched port, and then it's going to widen up into the heel. And we're just going to use a wedge shape, a door wedge shape for I made it too long, for the foot. So when I say the wedge shape, I mean a door wedge. It's like a prism. So this is the back of the heel. This is the side of the foot. And then this is the underside of the foot, which he gives us in very dark tones. It's kind of fun. Classic. I always make things larger. It's something you have to figure out about yourself. And like this becomes, it's almost like a mannequin. And you can, then put clothes on it. I'm going to erase some of my construction lines, and then we'll just kind of follow him mark for mark and see if there's anything more we need to do to soup this drawing up. But I don't think so. He's got, some broken lines. It looks like the trapezius or the latissimus dorsi comes out behind the arm. Let's just finish. Let's just do first things first. Okay. As this leg came back out at us, the next leg, so the also the gluteus maximus has a flat side, and then it cuts under, and it's just going to make this it's a very square block. And I don't want to like leave that part out because it does cast a shadow, and it made it seem like my hips were longer, but they were about right because I wasn't including the underplane of the glutes. So we're going to do the broad side of this hamstring back here. So this is also a rectangle. And then there's a little separation between, there's these little tendons back here, they're almost make yeah, there's like really noticeable tendons in the back of the leg that I like to make indications for. And then we'll go with that drumstick shape. And my foot now needs to go a little bit lower. So I'm doing the hourglass, the wide part of the calf, pinching in at the ankle, and then widening out again at that heel. And he just gives us a triangle on the side. We're just going to try and keep it simple. What may not be obvious is that we see the back of the hamstrings. You do see a little bit of the inner part of that thigh, just like you see a little bit of the inner part of the knee, and then a slight inner part of the calf muscle as well. So I'm thinking in terms of cubes, and my brain can't turn off the anatomy. And I'm not upset about that. So the sphere right here, it was a circle. I just added some tone on the side of it to get like the suggestion of a three-dimensional ball. And I will shade the side of the face as well. And I just use my regular, my parallel lines. It could be, you could use your tortillon and blend it out. I'm gonna punch my darks. He's using pen and ink, so he's got really light washes for the shadow. And then he's got very bold, dashes and mark making for, for the pen strokes. So I'm gonna kind of erase the lines that were essentially my construction lines. And then, put in, kind of copy his marks line for line, showing that there really is there's a little separation between the angle of the pelvis and the angle of the bottom of the rib cage. I may have exaggerated it slightly, but this is where I can trim the midriff so he doesn't look like he's such a wide figure. Just kind of more in the style, more in the style of Cambiaso. There's the armpit that seems to go have a crease in there that is allowed to go dark, and it seems like he's even drawing like a little bit of a pinch of the clothing and a dark silhouette. And then you can see how my line, this dark line in this thigh really is the separation between the planes. It's the separation between the back plane and the side plane. My arm is lifted up a little bit higher. If you look at this figure, the fact that the arm is more, it's more level, like it's closer to the body, it almost feels like it's this jabbing motion. My figure feels like it's almost pulling it back, where he's leaning forward and, stabbing that guy. So yeah, I did it. Hopefully you can handle a little bit of the gore. I warned Julia, but Kaya, hopefully you're not too disturbed. He's getting him right in the belly button. Good God. Okay, just so I know I'm not living and working in a vacuum. Could we stop the share and then maybe can I have a look at, see what you guys did? Oh man, we lost Julia. Kaya, how'd you do?
It's not that good.
Oh, Julia got bumped off. I wonder how long she was gone for. All right, let me stop the share. Julia, did you get any? Did you finish it?
Yes, I did.
Can I have a look? I'm trying to stop the share, but it's being fussy. I don't know if the internet is funky. Did you get kicked off? Hold on.
I did, yeah.
Okay. Oh wow. Nice. Oh my gosh, that is like, yours is much more expressive. Like really good though. Kai, can I see what you did? It's awesome. What are you talking about? Okay, good. Yeah. Great. I'll put the share back up. And the only thing that stood out as being a little bit weird was the left arm. And I think it's just because you have more lines than you need. If you just, and I'll put the share back up, but if you just like, I built the cube with heavy lines and I probably shouldn't have. And if we just do like a once over, and actually, Julia, this would be good for you too. Just go through the marks, the darkest marks that he has, and make sure that you have them. And then if you have other marks that are distracting, get rid of them. And it'll just tighten up the whole thing, I think. And then there's a part of me that thinks that we should switch over and do the second back view. Since we just did a back view, I'm thinking it might be a nice, just to do like the theme and variation. And I don't know if Julia, you may even have that on there. Switch over. There it goes. Okay, it's all on there. Even closer. I lose a little bit of my head, but that's all right. Candle down. All right. Well played, people. This looks distorted, doesn't it? All right, that's fine. Oh, maybe I'll zoom in. That's what I'll need to do. That's it. Okay. Let's do the same thing. When I say do the same thing, I'm like, let's just start with the same, try to follow the same process. So I'm going to start with the angle of the shoulders. And it angles up and to the right. So there's two ways you can do this. You can try to follow the spine first, or you just follow the sides. Either way, we're going to be making kind of the side of a block. So we get the side of the rib cage, and we're not really seeing the whole side because the arm is in the way. We could also do the shape of the neck and then the round part of the skull. And I think there's like the start of the mask. So he's lighting the fire. So he's definitely looking. So if there's an ear, it would be back here. If there was an eye and a nose, it would be like that. And I think he's trying to show like the foreshortening of it. And I might even foreshorten it maybe a little too much. So I think I made that neck a little too small. So I'll make the head a little bit larger. So we've got the angle of the shoulders, the size of the broad side of his back with no scapula or anything. Usually there's like little triangles of scapula. And then the separate, like basically the bottom of the back is the top of the hips from this angle. So we're going to do the broadside of his bum, and then that splits in half, that actually becomes part of the thigh. It becomes that big wedge shape of the thigh. All right, so now we've got the side of the rib cage, the love handles. And then when it's time to do the arms, I get excited because from shoulder to elbow, it's pretty consistently a block. So we're going to see the trapezius and we're going to see the inside of the arm. So it just kind of depends on the angle, but you can usually dependably call it a block. And if you look on this side, it is, and that's about as clear as a 3D cube block as you're ever going to get. When I say a block, I mean like almost like a wooden block that you would have as like building blocks as a kid. So he's kind of doing a push up with his left arm. So the artist gives us a little circle for the elbow bone, which is a nice, like a very helpful landmark. And then we're going to get that trapezoidal, almost like an inverted pyramid, that's going to bring us into the wrist and the hand. And he really is doing a push-up. He's holding up his body weight because he's so cantilevered and his head is hanging over. So there's a lot of weight hanging over. So he's got to reach down and go underneath the grate to light it on fire. I think Stacy's joining us. Stacy.
Hey.
I'm so happy that you joined us.
I'm so happy that you sent me an invite.
Where were you?
I was at Silburn Arboretum
Wait,
with
so you went there?
And his girlfriend.
Wait, whose girlfriend?
Tucker.
Oh, God. I was thinking Morgan had a girlfriend and you went on a date with him.
I think I said Morgan.
You might have said Morgan.
I think I did. I would either have said Morgan or Tucker or Trevor.
Those are the three most important boys in your life.
Oh, yeah.
I'm honored.
You said it.
I am honored.
All right, I'm finding my glasses. I'll be right back.
Dude, today is a very intense day in the art school.
I can hear you. It was this morning.
Was it this morning? I feel like this morning was easier than what it is right now. It is hard right now.
It's very well, I only thought we were doing the jewels. So I was very, very distracted by Devil Dog. Oh my God, I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Yes. So we're exploring this painting called The Martyrdom of San Lorenzo.
Okay.
And the artist is named Cambiasso, and this was a relatively popular themed picture, in the Renaissance, high Renaissance, mainly because it was like very dramatic. Anyway, this guy would do these sketches from imagination and come up with enormous figure compositions. So, and my theory is that because you only have like so many hours that you can work hard, like call it 4 hours that you can like work really hard, and inspiration sometimes comes even more fleeting than even that. And so if you're inspired with an idea or a vision or something, an idea for a painting, and you're in the zone, you got to get it down. And if you have to record 30 people in a composition, you've got to go fast. Like you can't spend an hour per person, because then you're going to be tired. You can't work 30 hours in a row. You can only work maybe 3 hours in a row.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard for like, anyway, so this is his shorthand way of drawing figures. That's the bottom line. And he uses,
I love it.
he does 3D forms. So I was just saying, we started, Stacy, with
Yeah.
his angle of his shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
and you could find his spine. So we built the back plane, and then the bottom of his back was actually the top of his hips.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh my gosh, this kid from college just posted something. And so then once we got there, his like left glute is the back plane for the wedge of
Oh, excuse me. Excuse
the
me.
thigh. Yeah,
Tucker, come.
I don't know. Maybe Stacy doesn't need a review.
Good boy. Okay. We cannot have Tucker in Mama's room. Okay. Excuse me.
That's okay. I'm just gonna do a quick review of what we did so far.
Oh,
Do you want
Yeah.
to try? Do you want to try and catch up?
I would love to. Yeah,
I think you'll be good.
I appreciate that vote of confidence. And I'm doing it.
Okay, so the whole thing's gonna start with this angle right here,
Yeah.
which is the angle of his shoulders. Now, you can almost think of it, and I didn't mention this to the girls, but this is, you can almost see it like a heart shape.
Yeah.
It's a little bit rounded. Okay, so where the heart meets in the middle, that's going to be the middle of the back plane. So that's his spine.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you can go, you can do the left side first, the right side first, or the middle. It doesn't really matter. You're all kind of getting the same thing. Everyone keeps getting bumped. Kaya, you back in town?
Yes.
Sweet. I was just giving Stacy a quick review of where we are. So I decided I started again with the angle of the shoulders, and we kind of at the same time came down the left side, center, and the right side, and then capped it off with the bottom of the back. And the bottom of the back is the top of the hips. And then we built, so that's the main rectangle. We're anticipating the side plane of this 3D rib cage. And then we did the rectangle of the hips. And the rectangle of the hips is kind of like the glute. So it's like gluteus medius up here and the gluteus maximus down here. And the big rectangle that's one side and the left side, that's going to be the back of this wedge. You see the 3D wedge of the thigh, the outside of the thigh, and then the hamstring. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. So you get the hamstring and then the outside of that thigh. Whoa, cool. I do like that there's there seems to be like movement. So it's like left leg is forward, right leg is back. Stace, this is the one we did before this, where the left leg was back, and the right leg was forward. So it's the same model, or it's the same. He's got the same proportions, so it's like the same figure in like these different positions, and it's not the same model. It's just the same formula that he's using in his head. So of course the figure is going to look like that, and chances are he actually kind of looks like this. Anyway, theme and variation, standing. It's a standing figure where from behind, whereas the other one's a prone figure from behind. And the one figure has the left leg forward and the right leg back, and then the standing figure has the right leg forward and the left leg back. So it is kind of interesting to see how they do work together on opposite ends of the picture, and they actually frame the center of the scene, which is San Lorenzo being burned alive.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, I mean, if in order to become a martyr, they have to kill you. So that's kind of goes with the job.
Because of the territory, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me how on his left leg under the buttock, on
Yeah.
the back thigh,
Yeah.
and the side of the thigh, that those three lines are not connected. It's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. So at the corner, and almost
Yeah.
suggest more of a roundness, because you don't want that to be a block. I mean, that's full of muscle down there. So
Mhm.
that is I had not noticed that, but it does soften the connection and makes it less mechanical, like less like a robot or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we did the left arm, and from the shoulder to the elbow, it was essentially just a pure cube, not cube, but a rectangular prism. So there's left side, right side. So the right side has a rectangular prism as well. And then we did a pyramid from the elbow to the wrist, indicating the little bump where I think it's the radius. I think the radius is, it's either, I can't remember. I can never remember the radius or the ulna, or which one has the bump on the wrist versus the elbow. But I think they're staggered. So outside of the forearm, inside of the forearm, into a distinct cylindrical form of the wrist. And then it's hard to tell what he's doing. I'm just going to put like a little circle in here with some, I know what he's doing. That's maybe the thing. He's definitely holding a torch that has a flame at the end, and it's going into this metal grate.
Can you point that out on the source?
Yeah, so
Thank you.
yep, let me lift up my design. So Stace, this is San Lorenzo laying on this block. See the big
Mhm.
block? That's a metal grate, and there's the guy, the executioners are building a fire underneath it. The standing figure that we had drawn initially,
Mhm.
he has a spear, and he's impaling San Lorenzo. So he's being impaled and he's being burned, basically burned alive. That was the form. So whenever you see a saintly figure holding a metal grate, they usually, that's Saint Lawrence. These, mural scenes, the more elaborate figure compositions, would be take up the entire wall of like an apse or the church.
Mhm.
Is that lined up? It's pretty good. All right, so we're going to go from this hip to the knee, and then the knee turns the corner. It's actually making contact with the ground, and we're going to build the side of the calf muscle. And it's weird because I want to show the hourglass into the heel, but the only indication of that like pinching is at the base of the calf muscle and near the kind of the footprint. So everybody knows how to draw a footprint. So this is the heel. That's the arch of the foot, and then it angles like this. So you have the big toe and then 4 small toes. He obviously, does not do all of that, but if you want to get a sense of what the foot is actually doing, that's how you can tell. That little transition zone between the thigh and the calf, like the upper leg and the lower leg at the knee block, that's all lost in this overlapping. There is a crease on the other. That's what reminded me. There's a crease at this other intersection between the thigh and the knee. And believe it or not, it is expressed because that calf muscle goes wide. And then it does start to pinch in, and then that gets abbreviated as well by the other heel, the arch of the foot, and then the ball of the foot. So you really have to look at the envision a footprint. I find it so helpful, and then put the shoe on. Stacy, in the last one, we talked about the calf muscle as being like almost like a drumstick. And then
Okay.
it pinches in like an hourglass at the ankle. And we're not really seeing much of the ankle because the legs are both so foreshortened that the foot comes in front of it. My footprint became too great. Did we have a dramatic shadow on the other guy? No. All right, so this is where our figure really stands out. Where you have the shadow side of each one of these forms. So let me just put those in really quickly. So we'll do the very inner part of that thigh, the hamstring, which is in tone, the inside of the knee. We've got the shadow side of the calf muscle into the ankle, the shadow side of the heel into the arch of the foot, and then into the toes. This whole under leg is in shadow. The whole side of the thigh is in shadow. The side of the ribs are in shadow. The side of the forearm, all in shadow. So again, think about the light, coming from up above. And maybe the light is further in front than we would even imagine, because I forgot the shadow on this forearm here. Shadow on the back of the head. I almost forgot that. This is where it becomes really fun, because the figure now, my figure looks like he's floating. He looks like he's, you ever seen those guys that have the jetpacks?
Yeah.
They have two big air compressed guns on their arms,
Yep.
and they fly over the water. I mean, I cannot wait to do that. Anyway, that's what this guy looks like he's doing, but we want him to feel like he's on the ground. So we know that his foot is in contact, his knee is in contact with the ground. We know that his hand is in contact with the ground because he's doing push-ups. We can imagine that the knee is in contact with the ground over here. And then his foot looks like it's on the contact with the ground over here as well. So now we need to we've done the shadow of the object, the shadow of the cube. Now we have to throw the shadow. The body is blocking the light on the ground. So now we have to, show that shadow that is created on the ground. And frankly, it's kind of a dramatic shadow. I mean, this, especially from the toe all the way up, very dramatic shadow. I'm trying to make it go side to side. I'm trying not to blend my leg too hard, so that I can't tell the difference between the silhouette of the body and the shadow. But here I'm punching my darks because he's using this black pen that just gives you the highest contrast. The black ink just really is impressive. So I'm after my shading, my graphite is weak. I mean, my graphite is gray. It's not, black ink. So the contrast between the material that I'm using and the paper is just not as drastic as the contrast between the ink and the paper. So I'm kind of just reformulating and strengthening my mark making so that it can be on a similar level as the ink. And that's just me trying to be more like Cambiasso so I can get a deeper insight into, the art piece. Not that I would really use pencil this way. But sometimes you want to make it nice and dark. Side of the hips, angle of the hamstrings. Nice. I'm going to do something, and you guys can take it or leave it, but I've been kind of promoting this idea that the thigh kind of looks like this, where you'd have like the kneecap in front. If you were to take a slice out of this thigh, that it's kind of a block. Like there's like the front of the thigh, there's the back of the hamstring, and then there's the two sides. And it's a little bit confusing because what I really think the shape is that I really think, I'm just going to come across here. I really think the shape is there's a front and then an angle side, and that's the whole front plane. Then I think that the back angles slightly, and then you have the back side. So the difference between this form being, 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, and this one being 6 sides, it is different. So I'm just showing you this way. So this plane back here, the back of the, this is the kneecap in the front. So the back is this plane. And then the side here is really this angle. And this little narrow inside of that thigh there, that's this angle right here. And so just for posterity, I just thought I'd put that in there. That the thigh is a more geometric hexagon than it is like a trapezoid. And even though this back here, the left leg really seems to project a, more of a trapezoidal figure, whereas the right leg does really explain that hexagonal form. And there seems to be these like sticks everywhere. So there's like wood hanging out of the fire, the grate here. That looks like it's a piece of wood there. It looks like he might be holding another piece of wood. There's this whole basket, which I think is full of wood. These two overlapping pieces of wood, and then there's this other guy that's coming in off screen carrying a whole shoulder load. So I don't know if the way I've been presenting is like a little bit clumsy, but I think it's a really good skill to develop, thinking in these terms, and then potentially even taking tracing paper and putting it over, finished either photographs of real people or, master paintings, and throwing, turning a very finished, very polished piece of art into, just a series of blocks like this. It's a really, really healthy exercise. Do I have tracing paper here? This guy definitely needs an ear, though. Maybe even a mohawk. What do you think of that
That's great.
mohawk? He needed it. This guy's like. How's yours look, Stace?
Quite funky.
Can I look at it?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm having the challenge that I've told you about. It's the whole, like the math thing and the dimension. Yeah.
Like
Sure.
proportions?
Here we go.
Oh, I forgot that. That's better. Whoa, cool. Okay, we just push it as close to the screen as possible. Yeah, that's awesome. That guy and your guy, again, your guy looks like, and your guy looks like he's running. You know what I
Oh.
mean? Like it looks like he's like tumbling forward.
Mhm.
And so does this guy. If I tilt my character like this, and I
Hold
make
on, I can't- I
the
need-
ground go like that, it looks like he's like, it looks like he's jumping in the air. You just don't have any shadows on the ground, is what I'm saying. So yours guy's kind of floating.
Okay.
It's not bad.
Okay.
It's just early on.
Okay. So continue with it. Don't scratch it.
I'd take a screenshot. I mean, I think it's just a matter of, do you have your tortillion?
Yes, I do. And I'm happy to use it. Okay, here I
I don't
go.
know where mine went. I should use it more, but the ink washes,
Mhm.
Cambiaso's ink washes. There's nothing that's more like an ink wash than blended graphite. It's just, it has the same soft, ephemeral, like very gentle gradation.
Mhm.
So the ink washes and the look of ink washes and the look of graphite are very very similar, very nice, and actually very beautiful. Yeah, so this is a technical drawing. So there's beauty. Aesthetic isn't the main reason. The reason for this art, for this method of drawing, is so that you can organize very complex arrangements in a relatively a narrow window of time. That is the point. So beauty and detail are not the order of the day. Even though you want it to be. It's like you always want it to be. And it's not that it's not beautiful. It's just it's a technical drawing for to get to the next phase.
Mhm.
The drawing isn't the end. This is just it's a process that you need to go through to get to the painting. It's very useful to learn how to do it. So I've got bratwursts cooking downstairs. I got beer bratwurst. So I cooked all my vegetables, my onions and my peppers in the
Yes.
like beer and apple cider vinegar and butter and maple syrup. And they've all been like slow cooking downstairs while I've been up here drawing.
Oh, yum.
I know. And then the brats are in there too, and I'll throw them in on the grill. I should really saute them, brown them up. But maybe the grill will be okay. I like using the grill, so I'll probably do the grill. But the veggies
Can't beat things on the grill.
the veggies are gonna be next level. Okay. We lost Kaya. I think she thinks we end at 5:30. Anyway, Ms. Foley, can we see yours?
Yes. Cleaned
Nice.
it up
Oh
a
my
bit.
gosh, I cannot see it. Hold on. Do not do
Can you
anything yet. Did
move
you work on
that
it? Let me have
further?
have
I
to
did.
stop
I
this
cleaned it
now.
up a bit.
Can you move that a little closer to you? To you, and straighten that little puppy up and freeze.
Yeah, you did clean that up. Really nice.
Yeah, nice.
Really very nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
How are you liking this, by the way?
I like it. I like gesture ones, the loose ones.
Yeah, good.
Trevor, may I see yours?
Yeah. Hold on, I gotta do this. I'm experimenting with some new paper. Boom, boom, boom. Screen share, screen share. This is gonna be epic. Okay, so this one was mine, Stace.
Okay.
This is the other one, but it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit on the screen from this angle.
Can I,
All right.
can I take a picture of the one kneeling on the ground? The source.
This one? Oh, the source. Can we do it at the end?
Yeah, of course.
This book is not very is not nice. When I say not nice, it's like it's old, it's from the 70s. The binding that keeps all the pages together is like turning to dust. It's like
Oh
a
my.
dry dust. So all the pages are like this morning. Remember when I ripped the page out? Stacy?
No.
No. So Julia, I ripped this page out so I can make the comparisons to these, to the drawings. And it was helpful, but like, I would like it if my page, and I didn't even rip it. It was just like coming out on its own. So I was like, it would be nice if my pages stayed in place. But so the binding is falling apart. And so every time I open it too wide, it all cracks and falls apart. So I'm trying to it's just this,
Yeah.
right now to move this book, it's a pain in the butt because I think the whole thing's gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what we can do here. I might try and make my guy a little bit smaller so he fits on the screen. So I'm gonna go the angle of the shoulders. And then I'm gonna break the torso into kind of two topical shapes. So there's going to be the broad pectorals, and then there's going to be basically the narrower angle of from the bottom of his chest muscles down the front of his belly until you get to basically the waist. which is where the belt would be. So I'm going from the belt line. And I think the belly button went in there before. It's just like, it's a really important landmark, on the top of any figure. All right, so we can see we would see the side, of the torso, but the arm doesn't, the arm attaches to that part. So we're really only seeing the side of the rib cage and how it comes in. He's got some love handles here. And you actually see a little bit of the love handle on that other side, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so normally I would look for what I call the pit of the neck, which is the connection of both clavicles. And it's basically the top of your sternum, and it's a very sensitive, where your esophagus goes down into your, through your top ribs, into your rib cage. Hey, Kaya. You're back. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I mean, what did I do with that? Okay. Okay, so Kaya, in case you can hear me, I'm going to do basically the same approach that I did in the figures from behind. And I'm going to take, I'm just going to find the angle of the shoulders. And this one was this angle that came here. And then instead of doing the whole length of the torso, the pectorals are a little bit wider. So I used a rectangle for that. And then I used another block to come down kind of the belly region. So you get to the waistband, and basically where the belt loop would be. And then from there, I was able to, I wanted to add the thickness of the side of the shoulders, but the arm attaches there. So you got the side of the rib cage into some love handles up here. And then, if you go across the belly, you can place the belly button, directly in the middle, which is helpful. And then there's a little indication of the rib cage or the love handles on the other side too, which is kind of fun. Okay, so that's like the mass, and where I was about to go, I was about to indicate this little V shape at the pit of the neck. So your breastbone, your breastplate or your sternum is also like kind of an important landmark when you're drawing in the front. He doesn't indicate it, but it's also helpful for where the where the pit of the neck goes, because it all lines up in the center. And his head is turning up into his right, so it's our left. So you're actually seeing the neck, and then you see, have you ever worn a birthday, like a hat, like a conical paper hat that had that elastic strand that comes down, and it comes in front of your ears, and then it kind of that's what this line is right here. So we need to separate the head from the neck. So I'm drawing the side of the neck, and then this little curve here is like basically where your double chin meets your neck. And then you're seeing underneath here, this arc is actually the region of the double chin, which is so wild. So that's always underneath here. And that's why the double chin is so important to include. And whenever you draw a person, even from the front, just this little transition from the jawline into the neck, you need to include, even if it's just like the most gentle shadow. Now we were below looking up at this figure. So like as I lean back, that double chin, from my chin to my neck, it becomes, it's a pretty sizable distance. It's just from most angles, you don't see it. And from this angle, you do. So I'm going to make my neck a little bit smaller. And if that neck gets smaller, then so does that kind of chin jugular region. And then we're going to see the face mask. And, this would be where the nose is, the eye, the mouth, the ear on the side, all in extreme foreshortening. So you kind of almost have to imagine this is a like a mannequin. Yeah, this is basically mannequin drawing 101. So this is the underside, we'll shade that. Then we actually see the side of the face, which is also in shade. Okay, cool. So he does, for the first time, introduce a little bit of anatomy, but we're just gonna blow right past that. And we're gonna do the block of the top of the arm, and then the block of the inside of the arm. And the inside is in shadow. And it attaches in the armpit. The armpit's interesting because it, if we were doing anatomy, you've got trapezius, you've got the rib cage, you've got the pectorals, and you've got the both the bis and the tris all meeting at this one conjunction in the armpit. And then you have, like armpit hairs, which clouding all of those things, coming together. But again, we're leaving out the anatomy, and we are showing the block of the top of the bicep, the inside of the bicep, and then we're going to turn the corner here at the elbow with the classic L. That's where the L shape comes from, the elbow. And we're going to use a drumstick forearm into the wrist. And then, believe it or not, I mean, he's praying. So I think like this idea, like the open palms, almost like reaching for something non-material, the other, the spirit realm. I've seen people pray where they actually don't close their hands like this, they like open their hands. So there is probably something symbolic in terms of tradition about that, but again, I'm not really sure. So I'm gonna use a block for the palm, and then I can use my little mitten idea for the fingers, and then I guess there's just a little thumb. Wow, so cool. So where there wasn't clear defined masses, a little bit of shadow on the far side indicates that there's a light side and a shadow side, and gives us that three-dimensional nature with essentially zero effort. I can even blend this out too. Cool. All right, so the arm angles up. We're gonna he was into the anatomy here. You can tell he started thinking about it. We're gonna bypass it again. We're gonna do the inside of the bis, the underside of the bis, and then watch that turn the corner at the elbow. And we're gonna do that drumstick forearm into this is more of a 3D block of the wrist. And then the hands are opening up again in the block form. And then we'll do the mittens up the side. And we'll do the thumb here. Let me pull it back down. I made that hand probably a little bit too big, but I'm okay with it. Light is coming from over here. So the palm this time, and the broad side of the mittens is going to be in shadow. The inside of the wrist, the inside of the drumstick, and then again, the inside of the arms are all 3D blocks, light side, shadow side. Simple as can be. Thinking in terms of these cubes also allow you to do what's called foreshortening, which is where, from hip to knee, it's a really long distance. But if you're at the right angle, it's actually not very long. And that's what's happening with the block of his right leg, the left side leg. But since we're trained, we can do the top of the thigh. So it's the hip to knee. Then we can do the side of that knee, or the side of that thigh. Then we'll build the cube of the knee, which we know is there. And then the drumstick of the calf muscle leading into the ankle. The shin bone does create this really beautiful bow. And he doesn't do the bow per se. but he does allow for the shadow to express it. It pinches in at the ankle. And then we see the bottom of the heel and the side. Wow. So he's doing two things at once here. We're seeing the bottom of the heel, and then the toes are bent. So you're seeing the side and the top of that foot. You know, the foot has a heel, you get the side as it bends. And at the right angle, it bends, and you get a toe and all the, the big toe and all the small toes. So you're getting a little bit of the top of the foot and then some of the heel at the same time. Really, kind of interesting. So this is like more of a long-winded version. That's a short one. You can think about like a bathing suit front, and or underwear, whatever you want to call it. But there's this little triangle that goes from hip to hip, and then the leg is going to spring out of that. So then we'll do the inside of this thigh, the underside of the thigh, and then we'll get the big cube that is the front of the knee, the square that's the front of the knee, and then the side. Hold on, I can't see my screen. Yes. Okay, so we'll get the side of the thigh, top, bottom. This is the under plane, this is the side plane. And then we'll build the cube of the front of the knee. And then we'll get the front of this shin. And then the side of the from knee to ankle. Just delightful. Again, a little bit of shadow here, a little bit of shadow on the side of that block. And once you've broken it down into blocks, then you know where the light's coming from. And we've done it for every single part. And we've got our own graphite washes. I think that's just what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it graphite wash. The foot takes on that wedge shape. Heel, arch of the foot, front of the toes, far side, and I'll even shade it. It probably would have been smart to build the cube, but I mean, not necessary. He could be on the ground, he could be on the block. So I'm going to go through, I think I'm going to actually throw my shadow. What made me think about the cube, if you look over here, there's the edge of the block, the grate. And the reason that's neat is because the leg is hanging off the edge and it's creating this like shadow down the side of the grate. So I was looking for the cast shadow. So the cast shadow, the foot, is on the shadow of the foot hangs over, the whole leg hangs over, and then the foot is going to throw a shadow on the top of the grate. Same with the knee and the thigh, throwing a shadow onto the grate. Rib cage into the arm, throwing the shadow on the grate, and then the arm itself. So I wanted to put that in there first, and acknowledging that as I blend it, maybe the leg will disappear into the shadow, and I'm okay with that because my last my last form, my last move I'm going to make here as we begin to wrap up is going to be punching my darks, which is basically in this case not necessarily going for the shadows, but getting my weak gray pencil to kind of stand out more boldly in a similar fashion to how the ink pen worked in his sketch. So, and it's just like a nice kind of once over, like review, sum it up, punch some of these, the wrist, and I'm reformulating the terms in my mind too. So this is the the armpit leading into the front of the rib cage, belly button, across the chest, side of the neck, angle of the chin. Oh, there's even the shadow on the neck, which I had left out. He is doing the deltoid. He is doing the bicep. And it's a lot easier to put the anatomy in, once you've built the blocks. You're going to shade this armpit in here. The contact point between the body and the grate, even though it is throwing kind of a soft diffused shadow, there does seem to be like a really heavy line where that body is in contact, with the grate. I'm trying to make beautiful lines. I'm not really being fussy. It's a looser style, like, Julie was saying. But it's looser, so there's not the detail, but it's not that the marks don't matter, and they're not, and the marks aren't without terms. So it's just the marks lean towards geometric terminology. So squares, this angled plane, trapezoidal plane at the top, bottom plane for the thigh. So there's some fabric on there. Love handles. And then of course there's this spear, the bloody spear, which ties us back into our original sketch. I wonder if it matches. Oh, it does. Here, Stace, check this out.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So the two figures do match up.
Wow. That's pretty intense.
I mean, it's not intense. It's violence is a thing, and this is not glorifying it. If anything, this is glorifying faith in God, and dying for that faith. So it's not the violence that gets celebrated. It's a better thing, but it is the violent nonetheless. I do acknowledge that.
What did you say? The name of the piece says something about Saint Lorenzo.
The Martyrdom of San Lorenzo. Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to fit as much of the other one on as well. And one of my favorite paintings of all time is the same subject matter by Bronzino in the Church of San Lorenzo in Florence that Michelangelo designed, believe it or not. There, even by like turning my figure, he feels like he's putting the weight. There's more of an exaggeration.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not bad, but party people. Hopefully that helped. All right, I got to go get these brats on the grill. Can I see, Kai, I'm going to pin you. Can I just see what you did? Finished or unfinished, what have you? I just love to see what you did for the day. I can't tell you how much it pleases me to see the art, because in class, I can
Wow,
see,
this is great.
nice, very, very
Yeah.
nice. Nice tone too. The shadows really work.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Groovy. Okay, Kelly, Julia, can I see yours?
Yes.
And then one last time.
I drew the
One
guy.
last- Oh, wow, you did.
Gave him some friends.
You did give him some friends.
Yes, I don't think you need any,
Wow.
I don't think you need any help drawing figures quickly.
Yeah, this is terrific.
It's a nice page.
Trevor,
Yes,
can
Stace,
I
how'd you
see
do?
your very first one again, laying down?
Yeah.
I mean, kneeling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, the one before this.
I gotta find it. Oh, here it is. You want that next to the,
Yes,
Next
that
up.
would be divine. Thank you.
yeah,
You
thank
know,
you.
I tried to go, I couldn't grasp the second figure at all. So I just intently watched you and listened to you as you were walking through every
Oh, yeah.
and stage.
Yeah, I might play this video for Yoni and Max and see how they respond to it.
I was able to follow you fairly well on the first figure, and I totally couldn't.
No,
on the
I'm curious
second,
because like
but
this is one of those videos where I'm like, I think it went well, but I just don't know. You know what I mean? I have to rewatch it.
right,
That makes
right,
sense.
right.
I feel like
Sure.
I did do a pretty decent job. And the work, you know, Kaya's and that's the problem with Julia and Kaya is like they're good. They're so good that you can't necessarily tell if it's a great lesson or not because they're going to do good no matter what, do well no matter what. So yeah, I'm going to test this one out. Okay, girls, thank you so much. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And then, yeah, I don't know. We can keep doing the figure, but you can email the school and let me know if you want anything in particular special. I don't mind doing it. It's a small class. And yeah, I love Thursdays. Some of my favorite times of the week. So thanks.
Thank you.
Good to
You're welcome. All right, see you guys.
thank you
Bye,
so
Stace.
much, Trevor.
You're welcome. Bye, Kaya.